Shedeur Sanders, the fifth-round rookie with first-round eyes on him, sat the entire game. Not because he was limping, not because of load management, but because, allegedly, he had an oblique injury. Except, here's the thing, he didn't. Multiple insiders whispered what fans already suspected, that Sanders was completely healthy and had requested to play, that he suited up, went through warm-ups, and waited, and waited, and watched as Dillon Gabriel stumbled through what can only be described as a glorified disaster reel.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
One pick, one fumble, a handful of off-target passes, and a quarterback rating that sank faster than the mood in the Browns locker room. Yet coach Kevin Stefanski didn't blink. He stuck with Gabriel as if this were Week 17 and the playoffs were on the line. He stuck with Gabriel even when veterans on the sideline reportedly turned toward the bench in disbelief. Even when the boos started rolling in, not from the opposing fans, but from the home crowd. And Shedeur? Still sitting. Still waiting. So, naturally, the question becomes, why? Why keep your most buzzworthy rookie on the bench when your starter is unraveling in front of millions? Why silence the guy whose jersey is flying off shelves? Why claim injury when a man himself is pacing the sideline, throwing warm-up passes, and asking to be put in? The easy answer? Control. The harder truth? This looks like sabotage. And not just to the fans. Because this whole thing, this media firestorm, this locker room tension, this social media explosion, didn't ignite because Shedeur started. It ignited because Shedeur was deliberately sidelined. And that difference? That silence? It spoke volumes. Now, let's talk about Kevin Stefanski, a coach known for playing things safe, sticking to the plan, trusting his system over the noise. But here's the thing, when that system ignores reality, when it prioritizes hierarchy over momentum, it stops being strategy. It starts looking like ego. And that's what people are seeing now. Because this wasn't a miscommunication. It wasn't bad luck. It was a choice. Stefanski chose to keep Sanders on the bench while the entire stadium, and most of the locker room, watched Gabriel struggle. He chose to double down in the post-game presser, dodging questions, recycling cliches, and offering no real insight into what went wrong. When asked why Sanders didn't play, medical staff decision. Yet no trainer, no sideline personnel, and no visible signs of injury backed that up. The Browns put out no official report. Sanders never limped, never sat with trainers, never missed a single rep in practice the week prior. The injury existed only in theory, and by theory, I mean coach speak. Meanwhile, General Manager Andrew Berry was spotted having what looked like a tense sideline conversation with owner Jimmy Haslam right after Gabriel's second-quarter pick. Coincidence? Maybe. But with everything else brewing, fans didn't see business as usual. They saw a crack between ownership and coaching, between the future and the past, and maybe most of all, between the truth and the script. This is where it gets messy. Because if you believe the rumors, and right now a lot of people do, then Sanders benching was less about health and more about message sending. A control flex from Stefanski. A power move designed to remind the team, and maybe even Sanders himself, that no player is bigger than the coach. But in 2025, that's not just outdated thinking. It's a liability. Because this generation of athletes isn't waiting to be told when they're allowed to shine. They come in with followings, with platforms, with leverage. And if you try to suppress that, it backfires. You think Shedeur's team didn't notice the jersey sales? You think Nike didn't notice the ratings drop when he didn't play? You think other quarterbacks in that locker room aren't seeing the writing on the wall? This isn't a normal depth chart controversy. This is a culture clash. Old school NFL hierarchy versus the new school of empowered, media-savvy, brand-aware athletes. And Stefanski? Whether he meant to or not, he just fired the first shot. So now the Browns are left with a boiling fan base, a fractured locker room, and a national media cycle that won't shut up about a fifth-round rookie. Former players are weighing in, Analysts are dissecting every frame of Sanders warming up, and fans are drawing comparisons to other infamous QB suppressions throughout NFL history. Meanwhile, Shedeur, he's saying nothing, which somehow makes it even worse for Stefanski. Because silence from a player like Sanders, who knows how to use his platform, isn't indifference. It's strategy. It's controlled. It's calculated. And it's a sign that this isn't over. If anything, it's just getting started. Because now the Browns have to answer real questions. Is this a quarterback competition or a coaching ego trip? Was the injury real or a cover-up? And most importantly, what happens next week? Does Stefanski double down again and keep Sanders out? Does he cave under pressure and start him just to stop the bleeding? Or does someone higher up the food chain, hello Jimmy Haslam, step in and make a call that Stefanski doesn't get a walk back? What's clear is that the Browns can't afford another week like this. Not with the noise growing louder, the fan base losing patience, and rival teams already whispering about what if. Because if Sanders does request a trade, if this ends in him walking, if he suits up somewhere else and explodes, then Cleveland won't just have lost a game. They'll have lost the future. And all because a coach wanted to prove a point. While the national broadcast focused on Dillon Gabriel forcing a throw into double coverage like it was a Madden glitch, there were real conversations happening just out of frame. Veteran receivers shaking their heads. Backup offensive linemen mumbling under their breath. A couple defensive starters standing with their arms crossed, silently asking the same thing every fan at home was. Why the hell is Shedeur Sanders still on the bench? It's not just the media or the fan base that's confused anymore, it's the locker room. And if Kevin Stefanski thought this was something he could contain with a couple vague post-game quotes and a strategically timed injury label, well, he's misread the room worse than Gabriel misread that Eagles linebacker on the pick six. Because make no mistake, this isn't just a personnel decision anymore. It's become a trust issue. You can't tell a team that the best man wins, and then bench the guy everyone saw cooking at practice all week. You can't preach accountability and then protect a quarterback who fumbled twice in the red zone like it's part of some long-term vision. That's not leadership, it's spin. And now Stefanski's losing the one thing every head coach must maintain: credibility. Let's zoom out even further. This whole situation is becoming a case study in modern NFL mismanagement. We've watched teams botch quarterback controversies before. See the Patriots with Mac Jones and Bailey Zapp, or the 49ers juggling Garoppolo, Trey Lance, and Brock Purdy like they were pulling names from a hat. But what separates those from what's happening in Cleveland is that those guys didn't have the world watching from day one. Shedeur Sanders isn't just a QB. He's a brand. He's a storyline. He's a marketing campaign with cleats on. And while some might roll their eyes at that, here's the cold truth. The NFL is an entertainment business, and right now, Shedeur is more entertaining from the bench than half the league starters from the field. That's a problem for the Browns, and more importantly, it's a missed opportunity. Because do you know how rare it is to have a rookie create this kind of cultural momentum before week one? We're talking about jersey sales, social media trends, endorsement deals, and a fan base that was ready to go to war for this kid after one preseason drive. But instead of riding that wave, the Browns decided to play gatekeeper. They chose to protect their system instead of feeding their spark. And what's even more frustrating, you can feel the franchise knows they made the wrong call. You can see it in the awkward way their social team posted post-game highlights without a single frame of Sanders, in the way assistant coaches dodged questions in press scrums, in the way Jimmy Haslam kept his arms folded tight as a drum during the second half while his quarterback put up a stat line that belonged in a blooper reel. Let's not sugarcoat this. They're scrambling. The Browns are watching this thing spiral, and they're starting to realize they can't PR spin their way out of it. They gambled that fans would forget, that Gabriel would play just well enough to justify benching Sanders, that the storm would pass. Instead, the storm got louder. Because the longer Shedeur sits, the bigger his legend becomes. This is the Streisand effect in cleats. The more you try to suppress something, the more powerful it becomes. Shedeur has become a symbol now, of potential, of misused talent, of every rookie who was told to wait their turn while someone less prepared got the reps. And that's dangerous territory for Cleveland. Because once your fans and your players start rooting against the guy on the field just to get a glimpse of the one who's not playing, you've lost control of the narrative. The team isn't unified anymore. It's split. There's the Sanders camp, which, let's be honest, includes most of the locker room and probably half the coaching staff who just aren't loud enough to say it. Then there's the Stefanski loyalists, who at this point are clinging to a script no one believes in anymore. And stuck between them? Dillon Gabriel. Look, this isn't even entirely his fault. He didn't ask for the drama. He didn't write the game plan. But the truth is, the pressure isn't just unfair, it's untenable. Every snap he takes now feels like a countdown. Every mistake is amplified. Every completion is met with a yeah, but. The weight of this controversy is crushing him. And it's not because he's a bad quarterback. It's because he was put in a no-win situation. He was made the face of a mistake. And now he's crumbling under it. You could see it on his face during the third quarter. That hollow look in his eyes as he came off the field after another 3 and out. He wasn't just tired. He was defeated. Not by the Eagles. Not by the fans. But by the expectation. An expectation that never should have been placed on him in the first place. So where does this all go? If the Browns don't pivot, and fast, they risk losing more than just games. They risk losing the locker room, the fans, the national spotlight. They'll go from team with a breakout rookie star to team that blew it before the season even started. And you know who's watching this unfold with a smirk? Every team that passed on Shedeur in the draft. Every GM who said he's too flashy or we don't want that media circus, and now suddenly wishes they had that circus parked right outside their stadium. Because flash or not, circus or not, Shedeur moves the needle. And in today's NFL, that's the whole game. So here's the final question Cleveland has to answer before it's too late. Do you want to be the team that discovered the next superstar? Or the team that benched him until it was too late? You don't get to be both. And based on how this is playing out, the clock is ticking. Fast. The tension that started as whispers in the locker room and frustrated tweets from fans has turned into a full-blown cultural reckoning for the Cleveland Browns. And the question now isn't just, why isn't Shedeur Sanders playing? It's, how deep does this dysfunction really go? Let's be real. When you have sponsors calling the front office asking why the guy they just dropped 6 figures into marketing isn't seeing the field, that's not just a coaching decision. That's a business crisis. Shedeur's face has been on the billboards. His merch has been outselling 80% of the roster. He's the player younger fans are putting on TikTok. The guy whose wrist flex celebration was memed across sports Twitter faster than a Mahomes no-look pass. And what did the Browns do? They benched him. Again and again. Each time, it wasn't just a football move. It was a cultural fumble. At some point, it's no longer about protecting the rookie or sticking with your plan. At some point, it looks like pride. Stubborn, ego-driven pride. And that pride? It's tanking Cleveland's moment in the sun. Because this isn't just about one preseason game anymore. This is about a franchise that, for the first time in years, had the national spotlight handed to them on a silver platter. And they shoved it off the table. And while we're at it, let's talk about the players. The ones towing the line between loyalty to the coaching staff and their own common sense. Because you can bet money that the vets in that locker room are taking notes. Quarterbacks may be the headline, but players know when someone's getting shafted. They see who shows up early. They see who's consistent. And when they see that guy, that leader, being kept out of the game for what looks more and more like petty politics, respect erodes. Chemistry evaporates. You think that doesn't matter? It does. Teams don't win because of talent alone. They win because they believe in the guy next to them. And right now, the guy many of them believe in is wearing number 5 and holding a clipboard. Let's take it a step further. Have you noticed how other teams are circling like sharks? You don't think the Rams, Patriots, or even the Giants are watching this unfold with interest? Don't think they haven't floated back channel inquiries, just in case Cleveland decides to dig their heels in too far and Sanders decides he's done waiting? Because that's the scariest part for the Browns. They're not just risking the fan base turning. They're risking the player turning. Shedur's done everything right. He showed up humble. He put in the work. He didn't coast on his last name. He earned every bit of hype he's gotten. And instead of riding that wave, Cleveland decided to treat him like a PR liability. If that doesn't tell you how outdated some of these decision makers are, I don't know what does. Because the game has changed. The league has changed. Fans don't just follow teams anymore. They follow players. Social media, nil culture, off-season branding, Twitch streams, podcast appearances. All of it has turned players into their own ecosystems. And Shedur? He's not just playing in the NFL. He's building Shedur Inc. The Browns had a chance to be the first shareholders in that enterprise. And instead, they're acting like they're allergic to dividends. It's not just short-sighted. It's foolish. Now imagine this. Shedur finally gets a start. Maybe it's because Gabriel throws another 3-pick game, and the boos get so loud they can't even call plays. Maybe it's because Jimmy Haslam finally walks down from his luxury box and puts his foot down. Doesn't matter how it happens. What matters is what comes next. Because once Sanders steps on that field with a full week of first-team reps under his belt, once the offense starts clicking because they finally have a field general who can read a defense and light up a camera, it's game over. Not for the team, for the people who doubted him. And that's the biggest irony here. The longer Stefanski and the front office delay the inevitable, the more powerful Shedur's rise becomes. If he just started week 1, he might have had a solid rookie campaign, earned some fans, maybe pulled off a couple clutch drives. But now every minute he waits makes his debut must-watch television. The anticipation is unreal. The stakes are enormous. The moment he finally touches that field, it'll feel like LeBron's homecoming, like Brady's return to Foxborough, like the beginning of something. That's not pressure. That's leverage. And Shedur knows how to use leverage. That's what separates him from most rookies. He understands that this league isn't just about yards and touchdowns. It's about moments. And he's been sitting on one for weeks now. So what's next? Best case scenario. Cleveland wakes up. Stefanski admits the injury line was a misstep. Gabriel gets benched with some dignity intact. Sanders gets the start, delivers a clean game, maybe throws a touchdown or two, and resets the narrative. Worst case? The standoff continues. Shedur grows more distant. The locker room grows more divided. The front office doubles down. And somewhere around week 6, Sanders quietly files a trade request behind closed doors. And when that happens, the Browns will try to spin it. Try to say it was a mutual parting. That it just didn't work out. But the rest of us? We'll know the truth. We'll remember that Cleveland had the spark, the story, the spotlight, and fumbled it in the red zone. And for what? To protect a coach's ego? To avoid ruffling feathers? To delay what everyone could already see? In a league built on bold decisions, Cleveland made the cowardly one. And now, if they don't course correct soon, they won't just lose games. They'll lose Shedur Sanders. And if you think missing the playoffs hurts, wait until you watch him light it up for another team. One smart enough to hand him the ball and get out of the way. And here's where the real sting sets in. This could have been Cleveland's era. Not a fluke playoff run. Not a wild card squeak through. An era. The dawning of something real. A movement. A story with staying power. But instead of riding the wave of Shedur Sanders' momentum, the Browns have managed to turn a once-in-a-decade spark into a PR disaster and a locker room liability. Because at this point, it's not just about football. It's about optics, control, and narrative management. Cleveland had the most talked-about rookie in the NFL on their hands, a quarterback whose viral appeal matched his on-field potential. He drew in new fans, put the Browns back on the national conversation map, and re-energized a fan base that's been running on fumes since the Baker Mayfield honeymoon phase ended. Sanders was the perfect storm of talent, timing, and charisma. And the Browns tried to bury it. They covered it in injury reports no one believed. They gave reps to Dillon Gabriel, who looks increasingly out of place with every snap. They acted like Shedeur hadn't done exactly what everyone saw him do: command the field, energize the offense, and actually win drives. And when fans started questioning it, the team got cagey. Stefanski dodged reporters like a politician in a scandal. The PR team pushed out fluff about long-term development and sticking to the plan, all while the rest of the NFL looked on in disbelief. Here's the thing: Cleveland is notorious for mismanagement, for squandering talent, for being this close to something real and choosing the long way around. But what's happening now is different. This isn't a blown draft pick or a busted free agent signing. This is willful sabotage, and players know it. You don't think veterans are whispering about it in the locker room? That guys aren't questioning why someone like Shedeur, who's clearly got it, is standing on the sideline while the offense butters? Respect doesn't just disappear overnight, but it erodes. It erodes every time leadership lies with a straight face. Every time the better man gets benched. Every time an opportunity for greatness is traded away for politics and comfort. And if the Browns don't act soon, if they don't let the man play, they're going to lose more than just games. They're going to lose trust from fans, from players, from the league. Because while Cleveland stalls, the rest of the NFL is moving, plotting, waiting for that one slip, that one fracture in the relationship between Sanders and the franchise. And when it happens, someone else is going to snatch him up, give him the keys, build around him, and they'll reap the rewards Cleveland could have had.